In the quiet hum of a roadside diner, where the scent of greasy fries mingled with the bitter tang of black coffee, a single question hung in the air like a storm about to break. Can I take the leftovers for my daughter? What followed was a reaction so unexpected, so profoundly human, that it silenced every soul in the room. But to understand why, we have to go back to the beginning. If this story touches your heart, and I know it will, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring tales, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on these emotional journeys. Now let's dive in. It was a sweltering summer evening in the small town of Willow Creek, the kind where the sun dipped low but the heat clung to everything like an unwelcome guest. The diner, aptly named the Rusty Spoon, sat on the edge of Highway 47, a beacon for weary travelers, truckers, and locals alike. Its neon sign flickered sporadically, casting a red glow over the gravel parking lot filled with semis, pickups, and a cluster of gleaming motorcycles that looked like they belonged to a pack of wolves ready to howl at the moon. Inside, the air was thick with the clatter of plates and the murmur of conversations. Booths lined the walls, their vinyl seats cracked from years of use, and the counter was manned by Ethel, a no-nonsense waitress in her 60s with a pencil tucked behind her ear and a heart as big as her tips were small. The regulars knew her stories by heart, how she'd raised 3 kids on diner wages after her husband left, how she never turned away a hungry soul. But tonight, the diner held a mix of familiar faces and strangers, including a group of bikers who had roared in just as the dinner rush peaked. At the center of it all was Maria Gonzalez, a single mother in her early 30s, with tired eyes that spoke of long nights and longer worries. She worked 2 jobs, days at the local grocery store stocking shelves and evenings cleaning offices downtown. Her hands were rough from scrubbing, her shoulders slumped from carrying the weight of the world. But her smile when it appeared was like sunlight breaking through clouds, warm, genuine, and reserved mostly for her 7-year-old daughter, Sophia. Sophia was Maria's everything. Born prematurely, the little girl had fought through health issues from the start, asthma that flared up in the winter, allergies that made every meal a careful calculation. Money was tight. Maria's ex had vanished years ago, leaving her to juggle bills, doctor visits, and the constant fear that she wasn't doing enough. Tonight, Maria had splurged a little. It was Sophia's birthday, and though she couldn't afford a party or gifts, she promised her daughter a special treat, a slice of pie from the Rusty Spoon. But as Maria sat at the counter, nursing a cup of coffee and picking at a half-eaten burger, doubt crept in. The pie was still in its box, untouched, but the burger, well, leftovers could stretch into tomorrow's lunch for Sophia. Across the diner in a corner booth sat Jax Harlan, the leader of the biker crew. Jax was a towering figure, 6'4" with a beard that reached his chest and tattoos snaking up his arms like vines on a forgotten wall. His leather vest bore the insignia of the Iron Wolves, a motorcycle club known in these parts for their rough rides and even rougher reputations. Whispers followed them wherever they went, rumors of bar fights, late-night runs, and a code of loyalty that bordered on fierce. Jax's eyes, hidden behind sunglasses even indoors, scanned the room with the wariness of a man who'd seen too much. His crew, 4 burly men with similar ink and attitudes, laughed boisterously, their voices cutting through the din like thunder. Maria glanced at them nervously. She'd heard the stories everyone in Willow Creek had. Bikers like that didn't mix with folks like her, but hunger and desperation have a way of overriding fear. As Ethel cleared her plate, Maria mustered her courage. "Ethel," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper, "can I take the leftovers for my daughter? She's at home and, well, it's her birthday." Ethel's face softened. "Of course, hun, let me box it up for you." But as she turned to grab a container, one of the bikers, a younger one named Spike, overheard and let out a snort. "Leftovers for the kid, times that tough lady." His tone was mocking, laced with the kind of casual cruelty that comes from a life on the edge. The diner fell into an uneasy hush. Heads turned. Maria's cheeks burned with embarrassment, her hands trembling as she clutched her purse. She hadn't meant for anyone to hear, least of all these men who looked like they could crush her spirit with a glance. Jax, who had been quietly sipping his beer, set it down with a deliberate thud. His crew froze, sensing the shift in their leader's mood. What happened next would become the stuff of local legend, a story retold over coffee counters and backyard barbecues for years to come. Jax stood up, his boots scraping against the linoleum floor, and the entire diner held its breath. He walked over to Maria, his massive frame casting a shadow over her small stool. Removing his sunglasses, he revealed eyes that weren't cold or menacing but weary, eyes that had seen loss, pain, and perhaps a flicker of redemption. "Ma'am," Jax said, his voice a deep rumble that carried through the silence, "I couldn't help but overhear. It's your girl's birthday." Maria nodded, too stunned to speak. Jax turned to Ethel. "Bring out the menu and clear a table for us all." Confusion rippled through the room. His crew exchanged puzzled looks, but they knew better than to question Jax. Ethel, ever the professional, nodded and started pulling chairs together. Jax looked back at Maria. "If you'll allow it, we'd like to make this birthday one she won't forget. My boys and I, we know a thing or two about tough times." Maria's mind raced. Who was this man? Why was he offering help? But something in his eyes, a vulnerability she hadn't expected, made her nod. Okay, she whispered. But why? Jack sat down across from her, his massive hands folding on the table. Because I had a daughter once, he said quietly, his voice cracking just a fraction. Her name was Lily. She was about your girl's age when she got sick, cancer. I rode across the country raising money for her treatments, but it wasn't enough. Lost her 5 years ago. Every birthday since has been a reminder of what I couldn't give her. The diner was pin-drop silent now. Even Spike looked ashamed, his earlier smirk replaced by a bowed head. Jax continued, I see a lot of myself in you, fighting alone, doing whatever it takes. Let us help tonight, no strings. Tears welled in Maria's eyes. She hadn't expected kindness from a stranger, let alone from someone like Jax. As Ethel brought out platters of food, burgers, fries, milkshakes, and extra slices of pie, the bikers transformed. They weren't the intimidating figures anymore, they were men with stories of their own. Spike confessed he'd grown up in foster care, bouncing from home to home with nothing but leftovers to call dinner. Another bear shared how he'd lost his job during the recession and fed his family on diner scraps. They laughed, but it was a healing kind of laughter, bridging the gap between worlds. Maria called her sitter and brought Sophia to the diner. The little girl arrived wide-eyed, her asthma inhaler clutched in her hand, staring at the group of leather-clad giants. But Jax knelt down to her level, his beard tickling as he smiled. Happy birthday, kiddo. We're the Iron Wolves and tonight we're your pack. What followed was a makeshift party that filled the diner with joy. The bikers sang an off-key happy birthday. Ethel dimmed the lights for the pie candles, and even the other patrons joined in, clapping and cheering. Sophia giggled as Jax let her try on his helmet, too big and wobbly on her head. Maria watched, her heart swelling with gratitude, the weight on her shoulders lifting for the first time in years. But the challenges weren't over yet. As the night wore on, Jax pulled Maria aside. I know one night doesn't fix everything, he said. Sophia's health issues, I've been there, my club, we do charity runs, we raise funds for kids like her. If you'll let us, we'd like to help long-term. Maria hesitated. Pride had kept her going this long, but seeing Sophia's smile, she realized accepting help wasn't weakness, it was strength. Thank you, she said, hugging him awkwardly. The diner erupted in applause as Jax announced an impromptu fundraiser right there, passing around a helmet for donations. By the end of the night, they'd collected enough for Sophia's next doctor's visit and more. As the bikers revved their engines to leave, Jax handed Maria a card. Call if you need anything, and remember, you're not alone. The diner watched them ride off into the night, the roar fading like a distant thunder. In the days that followed, Willow Creek buzzed with the story. Maria and Sophia's life began to change, community support poured in, inspired by Jax's act. Maria found a better job, Sophia's treatments improved, and the Iron Wolves became unlikely heroes, shifting their reputation from feared to revered. Jax, too, found healing. That night reopened old wounds, but it also mended them. He started a foundation in Lily's name, turning his pain into purpose. Years later, he'd look back and say it all started with a simple question in a diner. And so, dear viewers, this tale reminds us that beneath the toughest exteriors lie hearts capable of immense kindness. In a world quick to judge, a single act of empathy can silence doubts and spark change. If this story moved you, and I hope it did, please like this video, subscribe for more heartwarming stories, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that goodness exists. What's your takeaway? Comment below. Until next time, keep riding through life's storms with an open heart. But wait, let's delve deeper into the characters' backstories to really feel the emotional weight. Maria wasn't always this resilient. Growing up in a crowded apartment in the city, she dreamed of being an artist, sketching vibrant murals on scraps of paper. But life had other plans. At 19, she fell for Sophia's father, a charming mechanic who promised the world but delivered only heartbreak. When he left after Sophia's diagnosis, Maria moved to Willow Creek for cheaper rent and a fresh start. Every day was a battle, waking at dawn to pack Sophia's lunch with whatever was on sale, rushing to work, then home to nebulizer treatments and bedtime stories read by flashlight to save on electricity. Her biggest fear, that Sophia would grow up feeling deprived like she had. Sophia, bless her soul, was a fighter with a spirit as bright as her curly hair. She loved drawing unicorns and dreaming of adventures, but her asthma attacks left her gasping, turning playtime into hospital visits. On her birthday morning, she'd woken Maria with a hug, whispering, "It's okay if we don't have cake, Mommy. You're my best present." Those words haunted Maria, fueling her decision to stop at the diner despite the tight budget. Now Jax's story ran even deeper, a river of regret and redemption. Born in a trailer park to an alcoholic father and a mother who worked double shifts, Jax found solace in motorcycles at 16. The Iron Wolves started as a way to escape, racing down highways, the wind drowning out his demons. Lily came along unexpectedly, a bundle of joy from a brief relationship. For a while, life softened. Jax traded late nights for lullabies, his rough hands cradling her tiny form. But when the diagnosis hit, leukemia at age 4, everything shattered. He rode endlessly, organizing poker runs and benefit rides, but medical bills mounted like insurmountable mountains. Lily passed peacefully in his arms, her last words, "Daddy, don't be sad, I love you big as the sky." The loss broke him. He became harder, more isolated, leading the club with an iron fist. His crew followed out of loyalty, but they saw the pain he buried under bravado. Spike, the young hothead, was like a younger Jax abandoned by his parents, finding family in the wolves. Bear, the quiet giant, had his own scars from a factory layoff that left him homeless for a year. They weren't villains, they were survivors, their toughness a shield against a world that had hurt them. That night in the diner was a turning point for everyone. As Maria and Sophia joined the impromptu party, conversations flowed like never before. Spike apologized to Maria, sharing how his foster mom used to pack him leftovers that tasted like love. "I was a jerk," he admitted. "Reminded me too much of my own crap." Maria forgave him with a smile, and soon Sophia was perched on Bear's knee, listening to tales of motorcycle adventures sanitized for little ears. Ethel, watching from behind the counter, wiped a tear. She'd lost her own child young, a miscarriage that still ached, but serving others filled the void. She comped the entire meal, whispering to Jax, "You boys ain't as tough as you look." The fundraiser wasn't just cash, it was connection. A trucker tossed in $50, sharing his story of a sick niece. A local couple pledged monthly donations. By closing time, the helmet brimmed with over $1,000, enough for Sophia's meds and a specialist consult. In the weeks after, the ripple effects spread. Jax's club organized a Ride for Lily event, drawing bikers from neighboring states. Maria volunteered, her artistic skills designing flyers that captured hearts. Sophia, healthier with new treatments, drew thank you cards for the wolves, her unicorns sporting tiny leather vests. Challenges persisted, of course. Maria faced a setback when her car broke down, stranding her for work, but Jax showed up with tools and his crew, fixing it for free while sharing laughs over coffee. Sophia had a bad asthma flare, landing her in the ER, but the foundation funds covered the bill, easing Maria's panic. Jax confronted his grief head-on, visiting Lily's grave more often, whispering updates about the lives he was touching. "You'd be proud, kiddo," he'd say, the wind carrying his words. Years passed and Willow Creek transformed. The diner became a hub for community events, the Iron Wolves synonymous with charity. Maria pursued her art, opening a small gallery with Sophia's help. And Jax, he found love again, but more importantly, peace. This story isn't just about leftovers or bikers, it's about vulnerability bridging divides. In our divided world where appearances deceive, remember, a simple act of kindness can silence judgment and ignite hope. It challenges us to look beyond surfaces, to offer help without expectation, and to accept it with grace. If you've stuck with me this far, thank you. These tales remind us of our shared humanity. Hit like if it resonated, subscribe for weekly doses of inspiration, and comment your own stories of unexpected kindness. Together, we can spread more light. See you in the next one. To expand even further, let's imagine the long-term impact. 10 years down the line, Sophia, now a teenager, joined the Iron Wolves Junior chapter, writing for causes close to her heart. She became an advocate for children's health, speaking at events about how one diner's silence led to a symphony of support. Maria, thriving as an artist, painted murals depicting that fateful night, bikers and families united under neon lights. Jax, graying but unbowed, mentored young riders, teaching them that true strength lies in compassion. "It's not the bike that defines you," he'd say, "it's the road you choose." Spike reformed, starting a program for foster kids, providing mentorship and meals. Bear opened a mechanic shop, hiring locals in need. The Rusty Spoon, Ethel retired, passing the torch to a new owner, but the corner booth bore a plaque, "Where kindness silenced the room." Life's key challenges, loss, poverty, judgment, were met with resolutions born of connection. Maria learned to trust, Jax to forgive himself, Sophia that heroes wear leather. Inspiring message: no matter your path, extend a hand. You might just change a life, including your own. Like, subscribe, and let's keep these stories alive.